Next step is we are going to discuss, well, we have been publishing papers. We start doing research, we publish journals, we publish conference first, then we move on to publish in journals. Maybe we started with low impact factor, then we are moving towards a better impact factor journal. Okay, you are going towards a better one. It's a learning curve. You crawl, you stand, you walk, you run. It goes like this. It doesn't go in a day, in a month. It takes years. Yes. Then you want to apply for grants. What is the difference between grants and our normal research paper writing? Is there a difference? Are they the same? And how could I target applying for some grants? Okay. How could I target them? There are many sources of grants, by the way. There are plenty. I will give you a list of grants, list of funding sources at the end of today's session or in the next day. Okay, next session. Let's move on. There is a difference between writing journal, conference papers, and grants writing. There is one common similarity. The similarity is both of them should have some concept, some idea, some research which is novel, which is new. Okay, this is expected. If you don't have something new, which is not written properly, nobody will accept it. Whether it is a grant, whether it is an academic paper, a journal paper, conference paper, everybody will reject it straight away. Okay, it should be novel, it should be sound. This is expected. But the difference is this. When you are writing a grant, you are writing towards the funder, the sponsorer. So what is your target? To persuade him, to gain his attention, to get money from him. In the case of writing an academic paper, you have done the experiment, you have done your research, you got some results. It is more of you are saying what you have done in the past. And a small paragraph where you talk about your future. Okay. So in a small paragraph, you write about your future in the case of an academic writing. But in the case of a grant, when you are looking for some fund, you are submitting a proposal. The proposal is everything you will do in the future. You will say what you will do, not what you have done. Okay. You will have some literature review, you will have some base there, but you will say what you will do in the future. Okay. And then there is another very important difference. When somebody wants to give you money, are they going to give you money just for your idea? Or they are looking at something else? Yes, they are looking for two things there to give you money. Who you are, two, what is your research? They are looking for both. But when you talk about an academic paper, literally speaking, the review is blind review. Peer review is blind review. So they don't know who is the author, right? Who is the source of the paper is not known to the reviewer. So they will just accept it as it is. But the funder, the guy who is going to fund you, they know who is requesting for this fund. So they look at your profile. They will know, okay, this gentleman has a good record, give him. This guy don't have good record, don't give him, or don't fund him. They decide like this. So it depends on your name. So now it will come to your question mark. It's like egg and chicken question. I'm going to write my very first grant. They don't know about me. How will the funder accept my request? What he will do? So most of the time, when a new researcher, I mean somebody new to grants, writing for the very first time, it is very highly expected that his request will be rejected. Unless he team with somebody, he group with somebody who already has a better record. So please note, in the case of research, in the case of academic writing, normally you work with your supervisor. Only 2 people, 3 people together. But if you talk about a research funded project, it is not 1-2. It is team focused. It is not individualistic. By the way, it is team focused. Why? Because any research which is requiring funding, includes many aspects. There will be some design implementation, there will be funding, there will be writing, there will be a lot of things involved. So for this, you need people of different skills. So you need to have a team of different people. By the way, when you write a paper, normally, if you are a PhD student, you write the whole paper yourself most of the time. If you are working in a team, some parts you write, some parts others write. But in the case of a grant, when you write a proposal, what happens is this. There will be a head of these writers. So like for example, there are 5 people. 4 of them will write their parts. There will be a lead writer who will check everything. He will see whether the flow is okay, whether everybody wrote in a synchronous way, in a smooth way. They check this. Is that clear? So there are many differences. So we need to think slightly differently. And when you write an academic paper, do you write, I did this, we did this? Do you write I and you and we? We don't write this most of the time. We don't use active voice there. Okay? It's not necessary. You should not. You can use, but we reduce the active voice. But in the case of grants writing, you will find there are lots of active voice being used, lots of personal note. I am doing this. Okay, we did it. Normally in the terms of we, not in terms of I, because it's a group work. Is it clear? Am I making things clear?
Yes, sir, very much.
Okay. And one more thing, in a technical academic paper, you write with lots of technical terms. You can call it as jargons. Okay, you can use jargons. But in a grant writing, no, you should reduce the jargons. You should keep them as if it is very easy to understand. Even a layman should be able to understand what you are targeting in your grant. So these are the differences. And the case of grants, so now we have seen the difference. Let's move on to see how to proceed writing a grant. Remember, in the grants, there are some things which are important. There are deadlines. You have to submit progress report, 3 months report, 6 months report, yearly report, depends on the funding authority. Okay, you have to follow them in a professional way, in a timely way. You should be proper in time. And then remember, money follows money here in the case of grant. If you get a successful project, the probability that you get your next project, next proposal successful is high. And when you write your proposal, please be careful. Don't overpromise also, and then don't underdeliver. You say, I will do this, this project will do everything in the world. At the end, you are not able to deliver that statement. You are not able to meet that promise. So when you talk about a grant, it is not just the technical aspect that makes a grant successful. It's also the way it is written. Writing is very important when you talk about grant. It's very important, right? So you could get a grant rejected due to this. These are the common things by which a grant can get rejected. Number 1, your plan is not clear. Okay, your research plan. Your evaluation is not appropriate, is not adequate enough. Or maybe they have a doubt. The evaluator has a doubt. Okay, these guys are claiming to do something which needs some hardware engineering task, but there is no engineer in this group who are doing the proposal. You have to list the people, right, who are all participants of this fund, like principal investigator, co-investigators. You should write the names, their CV, their expertise, all this should be there. If they figure out, if the fund giver, okay, they figure out the source, they gives out, they find out, okay, they don't have people to do this job, how they will do it? Then they say, okay, these guys are not qualified to do this job. They will reject the proposal. Okay, and most of the time proposals gets rejected because of writing, not because of academics. not because of technical aspect. I'm sure you are good at your technical aspect. Okay, there is another problem. Some people, they have an idea. They say, oh, I have a very good idea. Let me just apply for funding. Well, there are so many funding resources available. Which one I should target, when and how? I need to know about them. Okay, let me open up a file here. This is a file I'm just collecting courtesy and thanks to Prof. Mayank. He shared me very good information. I've just added them here. Okay, it's a Excel file, gives you various agencies, what are the schemes they have, what is the eligibility. There is some deadline, maybe the dates are a little bit older, and what is the duration, and whether it is applied to India, abroad, what kind of fundings they give you. Here is a list, right? It's a list which I got from Prof. Mayank, and I have just organized them here. The point is, I need to know what is the funding authority, funding agency looking for. Are they going to fund something in IT? Are they going to fund something in medicine? What are they going to fund something in? Okay, so I need to know their target. So please note, you need to know this, answers for this. Number one, what is the success rate? How much they will pay? How they evaluate your submission? What is their preference? Are they going to give you preference for things coming from India, for example, or they have preference for some some group or some area, some priority? Some of them, they are specific towards women, for example. So look for all this. What about their timeline? If all these match with your request, with your proposal, then you can apply. So your proposal must align with the priority of the funding agency. For example, look at this. Here it says, this is a scheme. Okay, Ramalinga Swami, Re-Entry Fellowship. It says age less than this much. It is at least 3 years of postdoctoral research experience. If I don't have any of this and then I apply, what is the point? It will be straight rejected because I don't meet their eligibility itself. Okay, so there are conditions. So look for the conditions and see whether you meet those conditions or not. That's it. And then think wisely whether you want to work with this organization or not. Remember, working with the funding agency is like a bond. You are bonding with them. You have responsibilities, they have responsibilities. They are going to finance you, they are going to fund you, provided you do some quality. Right? If you don't do quality, you are going to create a bad name for you. That's it. You are spoiling your reputation. So please be careful here. Okay, let's say I have decided, I have a good idea, I want to write. What are the tips anybody will give me to write my proposal? What should I do? Tomorrow is the deadline for submitting a proposal in one of these funding authority. Let's say tomorrow is the deadline for this. Can I apply it? Can I do it tonight and finish it off? No, doesn't work like this. To write a proposal, you will need a good time. If you have things ready, you will need 3 months. If you don't have things ready with you, you might need an year. Why? Why? What is this? He's saying 1 year just for proposal. I didn't tell you to do the job. You might wonder, look, Bukhari, we are not going to implement anything. You are not going to evaluate anything. We are just going to write the proposal. And you are saying you need 1 year? Is it not too much? 3 months? Is it not too much? Yes, you might think this way. Please note, to write a proposal, you are not one-man business. It's a group. And there are many parts of the proposal which you will study today, which you will go through today, which needs time and energy. You will see. So you have to start early. Please note, it is good to apply early as well. If the deadline is tomorrow, if you apply tonight, okay, if you apply it tonight in the last minute, statistics says proposals submitted in the last minute have a higher chance of getting rejected. This is statistics. If you submit sometime early, does not mean you apply 1 year ago. No, you apply slightly earlier. Okay. And please note, you need a cover letter. Cover letter, so that it attracts the guy who is going to fund you. And the cover letter, most people, they will ask you to publish, to write the letter in your organization's letterhead, with your letterhead. Okay. This is the most difficult part. You have to think what questions will come into the mind of the reviewer. Sorry, mind of the reviewer, mind of the fundraiser, fund giver or funding agency, and you should answer them. Why? Because the reviewer and the funding agency is looking for an opportunity to reject it. Simple. If I am the fund giver for you, right, I just want to look at some way, there is something wrong here, reject it, finish. Because the funding agency receives lots of requests, not one, not two. They have plenty. And the number of requests they will accept is very limited. The percentage is very low. So they have higher rejections. Fine. If you get your proposal rejected, you should not get devastated. Please note, normally no proposal gets rejected in the first attempt. Gets accepted in the first attempt. You submit, you get some rejection. You will get some comments. Same like in a journal publication. If suppose I'm submitting a publication, a paper to a journal, okay, and the journal accepts it immediately, what will be my feeling then? I submit today, tonight I receive an email, your paper is accepted, congratulations. What will be my impact? What I will think? I will think they are fooling me around. Simple. Maybe the journal is not a journal itself, right? So you get rejected, fine, you revise it, you submit again. Another bigger problem is this. I told you a few minutes ago, if you have the things ready, you need 3 months. This is where you are going to apply for some proposal, some funding, correct? When you apply, you have to follow their guidelines. You have to adjust whatever you have into their structure. And you have to be very specific and realistic. All your objectives should be measurable, proper. And they are looking for to map between your research question, your objectives, your methods, your results. They want to see a map, clear map. Like for example, a connection between them. This research question is addressed by this objective. And then you will find this objective. I'm going to do it using this method and so on and so forth. Okay, clear? Please note, you must follow the application guideline. Very important. So here are some things you can follow. Let's say I have an idea. I have things ready. I'm starting now. What should I do? What will be the step 1 to do? Step 1, I have to read the announcement from the funding authority. Go to their website, read it carefully. What you are looking for, that their request or their idea matches your idea. They are going to fund correctly. Okay. So they are looking for some humanities area, and you are also working on the same area. Look for this. Probably it is good for you to contact an agent, an officer in the funding agency to know about the scope. You have to meet the scope. If you don't fit in the scope, it will be straight away rejected. And next step. So first step, you read their announcement, know about them. Second step is this: funded and unfunded submission, if it is possible. If it is possible, try to see their previously accepted grants, previously rejected grants, if you can. How you get this? If you work with somebody who has lots of grants, who has lots of funds, who has applied for many proposals before, he or she will have some things which are rejected, some things which have been accepted. Looking at them will give you a good understanding. It's a great learning curve. It is something which takes time, but you will learn from. Then you need to understand, normally you are not going to submit yourself. It might be a department, your college, your department, your faculty, your university. They are going to apply on your behalf. Okay, talk to them to know what you need. Identify some colleagues who can review your grant. You have written your proposal, give it to somebody who is not part of your member. Sure. Okay, let me just go to the slideshow. Okay, is it okay now? But the thing is, it doesn't allow me to see the yes. I think it's okay, right? So you can talk to some few colleagues, okay? Few colleagues, choose like 2, 3 your friends, your colleagues, but please note, the problem with some of our colleagues is this. You give it to your colleague, a friend, he or she looks at it, oh, good, good, it's a good work. That's it. They comment on some English errors here and there. No, you are not looking for somebody who will give you positive remark. You are looking for someone who can criticize your work. This is important. Okay. So before even submitting, you are going to go through this process here. Okay. And then now you will spend a lot of time, a good amount of time of your time, writing the aims page. What is this aims page? What is expected in this aims page? I will discuss the aims page in the next slides to come. Please note, in any proposal, figures and tables are very important. Because reviewers sometimes just look at some figures and get an idea. Oh, okay, this is what he wants to do. She wants to do this. Let's accept it. Okay, or let's reject it. And please make sure you have the points clearly for the reviewer to critique it, to check it. So you might say why your proposal is novel, why your proposal is innovative, why it is most important for them, why it should be funded. These things should be answered clearly. Okay, and then make sure the funding agency should accept you as a person. How? To collaborate with some senior invigilators who have very good name, who has many funded projects in their name. Okay, these are things. And you can do your own review as well. What you can do, look at the review criteria of the funding agency and give yourself a score. Take your proposal, look at their criteria and say, okay, if you are the reviewer, how much you will give? Be critical and do it. Okay, these are some tips. Now you are going to go into, let's say we are ready. We are ready now. Okay, you have idea, everything is clear, but how to put them in a grant? This is what we are going to look for. How to make them in a writing format. First, identify yourself. Okay, no, are you going to do for postdoctoral research? Is it part of a dissertation? Is it a stipend one? Is it a fellowship? Is it something which needs a large funding, a smaller funding? It has many people, it has only few number of people. Is it a pilot research or preliminary research? It is a whatever. What is it? Know your area, know your research. Okay, understand them. Number 2, you know an answer for that. The previous slide, you know answer already. Then what is the topic? Okay, I'm going to work on some sensor which can handle corona, for example. Okay, I'm just giving some hypothetical points now. Okay, if somebody can come up like this, a vaccine for corona, for example, it will be funded very quickly now if it is properly written and properly done. So why is it important? Why should I do this? If the funding agency does not see the impact of your research, of your proposal on the society, they will not fund you. Okay, so what are your objectives? What are your aims in this project, in this proposal? So you will find some of these are similar to when you write your paper. But here is the catch. Here you will see the impact of what? Okay, you will see the impact of social and economical impact. Not just the social impact, not just the research impact. You also look for the economy. Okay, this is the main point, main difference between a paper and a grant. And do you involve all the stakeholders? This is a problem. Let's say I'm going to come up with some strategy to handle corona, for example. Okay, I'm just giving an example. I'm not expert in this area. I have no rights to talk about it, but just to make things easy for us. Who are the stakeholders? So right now, you will find there are many people involved. The hospitals, the ministry, the public, there are many things involved. Okay, there are some business entities as well. So you have to consider all of them. You should arrange meeting with them. You have to talk to them. This consumes time. This is why I said you have idea, you have everything clear, but you still need 3 months to write, to make your proposal effective. Okay, you need to have meetings. When you meet with people, you will sure have agreements and disagreements. Sure, I will agree with something, you will disagree with me, no problem. But yet, you have to find a consensus. You have to find something effective. You have to come up with hypothesis as usual, and you should have your research method. So these are some points. This could be answered from the previous lecture. Are you going to use, what kind of method you are using, what kind of research you are using? Here is an important point. What will be the output? What will be the outcome? Okay, you need to know these two. What is output? Output is what you measure. Outcome, what will be the impact? What will it change? Okay, so what is important? People outside will look for the outcome. Okay, what will be the outcome of your research? So you come up with some research, you give me some data, you give me some results, fine. What will I do with the research results? What I'm going to do? Okay, so these are things. Let's move on. Here are some strategies. Make sure your idea is good. What do you mean by it's a good idea? Should be novel, should be innovative, should be significant, should be something better than what is already there. If these are not there, they will not accept it. So this is questionable. How do I claim something is innovative? Okay, something which is new method, something which is a new approach, better than what is existing in the area. Or am I going to improve the situation? Am I going to solve a problem? So it should be significant. And make sure it is understandable. Please note, your grant, you are writing not with technical jargons. You are writing in terms of things which could be understood even by laymen. So here it says, could your parents understand it? Could somebody who is not in the area? Parents here mean someone maybe not in your area. Okay, their expertise in some other area, not in your area, for example. Can they understand your proposal? This is important. Why? The funding agency, they are not experts. The reviewers are experts probably, but not the funding agency. Okay, and please note, is it going to benefit the community or not? These are things. Sometimes you have very good idea, but the proposal will get rejected, easily rejected. Why? Because of this. Maybe you did not write it properly. You use a lot of jargons. You did not use appropriate voice. You use everything in passive voice. They will reject it. So that means you are not confident about your work. So they will just reject your proposal. Okay. So these are something about English. By the way, the last points here, these things here are more towards English or writing skills. I will share with you a screen today about writing skills. So here you see how to write them, avoid common pitfalls, not too much jargons, follow the guideline, okay, don't have any typo, misspellings, and so on, okay. Use a parallel structure, meaning consistency in writing, all these things. And make sure you understand the funding source. Please don't forget, you have to fill this part. You don't do this in your research, but you have to do this in a grant. You have to say, what are the equipments you need? How much does it cost? Do you have enough resources to do the job? Okay, these things. When you submit and your proposal gets rejected, don't worry, resubmit. Revise and resubmit. Please note, majority of the proposals are not funded on the first submission. That's it. And when you write your proposal, think about the reviewer. There are three types of reviewers. Someone who is very knowledgeable, someone who is intelligent but not an expert. Third guy is a good editor. He knows how to write, how to edit things. So your proposal should convince all the three. Okay, should convince all the three of them. So these are some of the questions a reviewer is going to look at. Keep in mind, they are going to look at these questions. Number one, they will see whether the priority of the agency match your proposal, whether your proposal is interesting and innovative, whether it is well written, is it related to the previous work, is it feasible, are you talking too much that it cannot be done but you are just making it up. Okay, and they will check whether you are qualified to do the research, and is the institution, maybe the name by which you are applying, they are supportive. So they look for these factors to accept or reject your proposal. Look at this. Most of these are not relevant to your academic paper writing. They are different. So this is the process. Now we have got the base ready, so you can keep going. Identify, know the proposal grant, then develop your budget, then you can write, you can make a request for to know what are other things you can submit, then they review it, they will award, they can accept, and keep going, do your job. Okay, so these are some points which are repeated, so I'm just going to skip through. So as a reviewer, the reviewer is looking for significance of your work, the goals and aims of your work, and what is the criteria to say something is successful. Believe me, you can claim something, but when you claim something, you have to say that your work is successful. How you prove? You should have some measurements, some things you measure by which you can say this is correct, this is not right. So please note, your style is very important. I'm going to skip some of this. Okay. This is the aims page. Aims, or what you call specific aims, is a part of your proposal. Like Prof. Mayank discussed with you introduction, methods, he discussed the IMRAD. Similarly, here we have what is called specific aims part. This aims part is the place where the reviewers concentrate. They read it carefully. If they are convinced here, mostly they will be convinced with your proposal. Okay, what you write here? Number one, you have the introduction. Okay, you will have to attract the interest of the reviewer. Okay, you have to say why your work is important, and you have to say what is the gap in the research already existing. So you have to say your hypothesis, you have to link it with your objectives, emphasize your product. They are looking for a product so that it can be it can come into the market in the future. Okay, so what will be the output of your or outcome of your research? So think about your headlines, what can attract people. Make sure you use action verbs. Don't just say I will do this. Describe something. I will investigate. I will investigate what is done in this area. So what? You will investigate, but what will be the outcome? So you have to say, I will analyze this for this. I will look for these parameters. I will test them for the efficiency of the system, like this. So use action verbs when you write your specific aims paragraph. Make sure all your aims are measurable. Something you can measure, something you can evaluate. And please don't make things as over ambitious. This is very important. And don't give experimental details. No, they are not looking for experimental details in the proposal. Experimental details will be after they accept funding you, then you submit your grant. After you do the job, you submit, there you will explain the experiment details. Not now, not in the proposal. Okay, and please note that reviewer, they want to see your hypothesis very clearly. Okay, reviewers want to see the hypothesis. How to write hypothesis? This is something I believe you have you know already. And if you have aim, please make sure all the aims are independent of each other. Don't club them. Don't say, okay, Aim 1 relate to aim 2. Aim 2 relate to aim 3. Like this. No, don't do that. And make sure you have a clear-cut outcome. At least that should be one, which is very important. If there is no important outcome of your proposal, they don't need to fund you. They will just reject it straight away. Okay. So please note that you need to have the long-term goal of your work. What is the impact of it on the society? Now, the later part of our topic is proposal parts. Okay, what are the contents of a proposal? Before going into this, right, I'm going to go and show you something which might be interesting for you. Just give me a minute. I will show you something. Do you have any questions right now? Everybody there? Was the information clear, or do you think something is missing? Hello?
As of now, there aren't any questions, sir. I think it's going really well, yeah.
Okay.
It's going very
Fine.
clear. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to show you something. Okay. Probably this is not perfectly related to our topic. Yes, it is related in terms of writing. Right? There are some terms which are misleading for people. For example, I will take a very simple example just to show you how important writing is. Okay, let me just get it here. 1 minute. Right, here it is. Okay. So when to use that, when to use which. Okay, when to use them. We have what is called restrictive clause, what is called non-restrictive clause. Based on them, you should use which or that appropriately. Even these primitive stuff are important. Okay, these are very important. So when a reviewer, yes, okay, when a reviewer looks at your proposal, they are going to look for these small details. For example, I'm writing. If I use the word that, if I use the word which, for example, these polygons which look like sharks have one leader. Okay. So here, if I replace this with a that, is that okay? Or is it not okay? So these are basic stuff, but these are necessary. So you use that if something is restrictive. You use which if something is non-restrictive. And for which you use comma. For that, there is no comma. So there are basic rules. And you have to be very careful with these rules. So here is a list of items I have. Okay, I have just collected them. Right? When to use adapt and adopt. What is the difference? What is the difference between affect, effect, and impact? So please note, even though these looks very primitive, but these things can decide on acceptance or rejection of a proposal. When to use among, when to use between. When to use amount, when to use the word number. When to use few, okay, when to use number, like this. So these are things. Let me go on. I'll show you one more and I will switch back to the same slides again because I need to cover up on the grants. By the way, there are lots of transition verbs we can use, transitions, to connect them. In addition, moreover, furthermore, therefore. So when to use what and how to relate them in your writing. So these will impact your proposal being accepted or rejected. These are primitive stuff, but they are important. Let me go on with the parts of the proposal. In the proposal, okay, today I'm supposed to finish by 4:30 Indian time. So I will finish it a couple of minutes before that time. If you have questions, please feel free to write them. What I want to do is this. Let's take the chat box and put in your comments. I'm looking for not just positive comments. I'm looking for criticism, some comments, so that I can improve them or I can cover them in the next session. Next session is more about patenting. And if there is something I missed, something you think you need answer to, please write them here so I can answer them in the next session as well. Okay, I will try to do that. Let's move on here. So in a grant, in a proposal, you have these things. You have a title page, as expected. You have the abstract. As usual, abstract is something which people might read and then reject or accept the proposal straight away. In the abstract, you need to write what is the purpose, what are the goals, what are the methods, what is the significance. It is better if you can write things like this. The objective of this study is, the contribution of this study is, these are the three main contributions of this proposal. Make it clear, straightforward, explicit. Make it very clear so that we don't want the reviewer to read and extract. Let the reviewer make things, let us make the comments to the reviewer very easily. Okay, make it easier for the reviewer. I'm not sure, someone is asking for entering the room. Dr. Jyoti, can you handle them?
Yes. Done, sir. Done.
No problem. Thank you. Then you have an introduction section. Okay. Here you have the background, right? The rationale behind it. You talk about your objectives. You talk about your significance. And then this is important. How is your work different from somebody else, right? How is your work different from the previous one? Will you be using something new, some new theory, new concept, new methodology? What are you going to do? What will be the anticipated or expected outcome of your research? Because they are looking for the outcomes. Their target is to see the outcome. Okay. But please make sure you only indicate the important ones. Don't just make like 1, 2, 3, 4 hundreds of outcomes. Nobody wants to read them. Okay. And literature review. Be selective, but you don't need to be exhaustive. You don't need to cover everything in the literature, but select the right ones and be critical. Because if you are able to critique something what is expected, or something what is already in the literature, they know that you understand the area very well. Okay. You have to be critical in your evaluation, but don't just, blindly say they have nothing, don't disgrace others' work. That will disgrace yours as well. Then looking for the project narrative. Here you talk about the methodology, the methods you are following, the procedure you will follow, what will be, the follow path one after the other. You have to say like, you have to go one by one and answer your objectives, answer your questions and follow up. Until this part, okay, you used to do this in your, what you call your papers. But when you come to grant, you have this part, which is not there in the normal papers. You have to write the personnel, who are all involved in this grant. Okay. So when you write the people, make sure you have people of different expertise, because they are going to see whether you have enough expertise to do your proposed proposal. And make sure these personnel have the time. You have a time frame. They work for 3 months with you. They work for 2 months. Okay. What will be their task? What will be their contribution? So these parts you have to be very clear. Please note, this will affect your budget as well. Okay. Because it depends on the personnel, the budget gets affected. Here is a budget. So budget, again, this is something you don't do when you write your research papers. You have to look for many things. You have to look for travel grants, equipments, some kind of salary, or you pay for those who do the work for you, and maybe you are going to procure some books, some other materials, some things for renting, or you're going to do some workshop, and so on and so forth. You need to think of many things here. And please note, when you write the budget, always you need to have the justification. Without a justification, nobody will accept it. You have to say why you need it. And sometimes you get funding from different resources for the same project. Same proposal, part of it you get from the university funding. Okay. Part of it from the government, for example. Make it clear that you are getting something from local funding. If you don't make things clear to the funding authority, they will think, okay, he is asking for 20,000 rupees, for example. I'm just giving an example. But this project cannot be done with 20K. They will reject it. Oh, the fund is not enough, so he does not understand the whole work. They will consider you are not knowledgeable in the area. if you are not giving appropriate funding. If you are asking for too much, again they will question your validity. I think there are some funding authorities, some, not many. What they will do, if you ask for 10K, they give you 6K. Okay, they say remaining you fund yourself, you find from some other source. Okay, there are authorities like this. And you also have to provide the time frame. Make sure this time frame has reasonable, handling of, some things which can happen unforeseen, something which I did not accept, but it happened, some kind of adjustments. For sure, you should have some limitation. Okay, in any work, that be limitation. So these are things that you need to write. Now, you might ask me, look, you discuss about contents of a proposal, what to write, what is expected. There are many things you told us. And you also said a proposal can be rejected just because a small English problem. Why don't I ask a writer, a professional writer, to help me write my proposal? Is that a good idea? Some people do ask some people to write their papers or proofread their papers. Is it good? There are pros and cons here. Number one, the writer has time to do the job, which you might not have. Okay, the writer knows the regulations. He might know, maybe he has written many proposals before, so he or she knows what is their expectations. Okay, they know the expectation very well. This is possible. But there is a big disadvantage. What is the disadvantage? You have a passion for your research. You have a passion. You want to do your work. You have interest to do your job. But maybe the professional writer does not have that same level of your interest in doing it. So maybe the way they will write is not very impact. It doesn't have very high impact because you have the passion, but they don't have that much passion to do the job. Last but not the least, in any proposals, okay, it is very important to revise something. Don't say, okay, I did it and I submit. No. Even a paper you need to revise many times. Here you need to revise. When you revise your proposal, look for whether you have made things clear that it is something very urgent to fund. Very important. Is the hypothesis clear? Is the proposal feasible? You are not, overly ambitious. You are correctly ambitious, right? Is there some weakness in your proposal? Okay. So is there no typographical, no spelling mistakes? Please note that if you use Grammarly and all of these grammar checking tools, they can check. They can catch 80% of the errors, but remaining 20%, you need some readers, 2 or 3 of your colleagues, yourself, your friends to read it, because it does not catch all the errors. Okay, you will catch 80%, 20% maybe the word looks similar. Like for example, I use a word which might mean something else to somebody. Okay, so here are something you review. When you review, look for the significance, look whether it is feasible, okay, whether it is original, whether you are having some experience in the area. Make sure you have experienced people in your proposal and you have support from your authority. Okay, and here is a checklist. By the way, I have not prepared this material from anywhere. I have prepared from these sources. Okay, credits go to all these sources. I am preparing things from the sources and I am not just preparing from my experience or whatsoever. And here is one link which has lots of checklists. They also have some examples which could be helpful for you. Okay, they have examples, they have links. You can see they have a toolkit which can give you like measurement values. You can check them and it could be very useful for you. I believe this is all I want to cover on grants. And the next session, we will look at patenting. Now it is time for people to ask their questions, give their comments, and we can move on.
Okay.
Okay, regarding to the grants, it's a good question from Dr. Prasanthi. Here is a list of grants I have here, which is for different areas. And also I have some other collections here, which I have received from Dr. Mayank as well. Okay, here it is. Here is a list of authorities who can give you some funding. 1 minute, it's here. Right, I will share these things with you. Okay, I can share the slides plus these materials after the end, by the end of this session. By the way, I'm looking for something very important. Okay, before the next session, I'm looking for some of your comments, some of your feedbacks, and some questions by which we can improve our research, improve our skills. Maybe we can collaborate, maybe we can improve. These are things we can look for. By the way, any research proposal cannot be done as a single person. This is one problem we have. We try to work privately. We try to do our research individually, which is not going to work if you go for grants, if you go for patents. It doesn't work. You have to be in a group, right? If you go and see papers mostly from Japan and some countries, you will find even they have many authors in one single paper. They collaborate a lot. So we need to improve these stuff as well. So in summary today, what we have covered until now, we have seen author impact, journal impact, what are the various indexing authorities they have, and what are the factors which we have to look for when you want to apply for grants. How a grants is different from academic writing. We have seen that part. How is it different? And we have also seen what are the aspects they look for when you submit a grant. That's all from me.